doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Pretty good. How's your new job been?
Good. Tiring. A lot of work, but
Yeah.
good. I like it.
Mhm. Have you been thinking at all more about your food since we met last time?
Yes. Just more of like what I'm actually eating, because now I noticed 2 Impossible Whoppers a day does sound like a lot.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, so we're gonna get started. So today I'm gonna go over with you the 24-hour recall that we did last time, and so I've got I entered all that information to a database, and I'll show you the data that came back from that, and maybe we'll talk about if there are any changes that you might want to make, and maybe like how we can do those. So I'm going to be just asking you some questions, and you can always let me know if there's anything that you want to talk about, and we're just going to kind of work together to make whatever changes that you want to. Okay?
Okay, sounds good.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to just really, really briefly go over your 24-hour recall so that as we're looking at the data, we kind of remember what those things were. So you had a pre-workout in the morning that day, you had a small lasagna at work, and then for lunch you had an Impossible Whopper with a small fry and a Powerade, and you only ate like half of those, and then later on you ate the other half of the Whopper and the rest of the fries and the Powerade. You had a Starbucks that day. So then for dinner you had the potato tacos with like salsa and with some beans, black beans. You had a pineapple water with it. And then later on, right before bed, you had ramen noodles. And then you said you had like some water throughout the day. So, okay, so that's the day that we're going to be talking about. So I'll go ahead and show you what you had. All right. Okay, so this was basically a database, so I went and entered in all of the information, including like the portion sizes and everything, and it came back and told me like what micronutrients you had, what macronutrients, the calories, and all of that. So on that day, and this is all going to be a rough estimate, so for instance, you had a lot of vegan food, and sometimes the database doesn't have those specific foods, so these aren't going to be 100% accurate, they're just going to be an estimate. But okay. So it estimated that on that day you had 4,250 calories, and its sort of recommendation for you based on your height and weight and everything and age is 2,600. So on that particular day, that was a little bit of a high calorie day. And then you had about 60% from carbohydrates, which is within the good range. 26% from fat, which is also good, 14 from protein, and then no alcohol that day. So those were all good. And then all of so these are kind of like all the major food groups. You met all of the grain recommendations. You met all of the dairy recommendations, all of the vegetable recommendations, and all of the protein food recommendations. The only one that you didn't hit was the fruit. So on that day, the only fruit you had was the pineapple juice or the pineapple water that you had with dinner, if you don't count, tomatoes. Yeah. So, okay. And then, let's see. Okay. So this one kind of points out a few kind of specific ones. So that day you had quite a bit of added sugar. So it estimated you had about 139 grams of added sugar, and the recommendation they have was 65 grams. Your saturated fat was a little bit over the recommendations, but I would say close enough that I'm not too worried about that. The alcohol was good, and then also your sodium. So they estimate that you had a little over 8,000 milligrams.
That's a lot.
Which it is an estimate, but I I would think that even if the estimate was pretty far off, you would still be like significantly over the recommended 2,300 milligrams. So you were a little bit high on the sodium that day. And then these are all going to be your vitamins and minerals. And from what I saw, you were pretty good on all of those. Okay, so this one's mostly about carbs. So you definitely had enough carbs. This is really good. You had enough fiber that day, so it looks like 63 grams. Yeah, so you had 63 grams of fiber that day, which is really good. The recommendation for your age and weight and sex is 38. And then also good on the protein. That's really good. The vitamins, you were good on pretty much all of them. You were just a smidge short on vitamin A, but you're so close to the recommendation that I'm not worried about that either. And then, okay, so the only major vitamin that you were low on is your vitamin D. So you were, looks like about half of the recommendation. You got 330 when the rec is 600, so about half. And then on your minerals, it looks like you got all of your mineral intakes were well over the recommendations. So how do you feel looking at these?
A little shocked, only because I mean, just going over what I really had that day actually doesn't really seem like it would have had all of this in there. You know,
yeah.
It was just a few things.
And well, if you think about it, so these are, it's a 12-hour workday for you. So you basically had what, you basically had 5 meals that day. So you had the lasagna, then you kind of had like 2 lunches while you were at work, so 2 separate Impossible White Whoppers. Then you had the tacos when you came home, that's 4, and then you had that ramen before bed. So, but considering how much you're working, I think that's reasonable to, you had a lot of food that day, but that's what you're kind of needing for all of that work, So I kind of asked you this last time, but from your recollection, and this is kind of a new job for you, so how typical, let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being this was like a crazy, unusual day, and 10 being like this is totally typical, how typical do you think this day was?
For a typical work day, I would say it would be probably 10.
10? Okay.
So far it has been typical.
Okay.
Yeah, since it is a fairly new job and I'm a month into it, about a month and a half. So I'm noticing that this is typical so far.
Okay, so by typical, are you kind of referring to like maybe eating out for lunch? That's usually what you're doing while you're at work? Yeah,
I have been eating out and I've just been working out that way that I'm not bringing anything.
Yeah, and eating out is hard, especially because you have extra dietary restrictions as well. So yeah, it's a little hard to find like healthy foods that kind of meet your goals whenever you're eating out. So.
Yeah, I only have like 2 options to eat out for lunch. So
yeah, and then you're also restricted by your location, right? So you only have so many places that you can go to close to work. So yeah, that's understandable. Okay, so I have a few topics kind of lined up here for you based on that. So like we said before, you only had that pineapple juice for dinner. That was the only fruit that you had that day. So the recommendation is definitely to have several servings of fruit a day. We could talk about that. Your added sugar was a little bit high that day over the recommendation, so we could talk about that. So is the sodium. I noticed that you're not taking a B12 supplement, correct? Okay, so that's something that we could talk about because that's something that's very important for vegans especially. Your vitamin D was a little bit low, so we could talk about that. And I was thinking, maybe bringing meals to work. We kind of talked about that last time and just now. So we could talk about any of those, or is there anything that you want to talk about? Is there anything that you noticed or that you have a concern about that you want to talk about?
I think if I'm concerned about anything, it would probably be the B12 and the vitamin D. Just because those could be deficiencies. And,
yeah.
But I think I would like to talk about the meals more, just because this is something new. The job is new, and I know I'll have to make some changes. Like bringing meals would be a huge change. It could change the whole everything here.
I agree. Because that's a really significant part of your diet is what you're able to eat at work, since that's such a long day when you're at work. Okay, so then so let's talk about bringing meals to work then. All right, so and like you said, that could have a huge effect on maybe multiple of these on the list. All right. So for your, just sort of like based on your height and weight, so here they have your calorie recommendations at 2,600 calories. So for instance, so I printed out your your Whopper, for instance. Because I was curious. I wasn't able to find it in the database, so it was kind of interesting to find this. So yeah, like the Whoppers that you were having they're about 600 calories, and they have a pretty significant amount of fat. So 300 of the calories is just from the fat. And they're also pretty high in sodium. They've got 1,000 milligrams of sodium each. So definitely, I would say replacing something like that with, food that you were able to bring from home, you could have more control of like how much fat is in those meals, how much sodium, how much sugar, and all of that. So I think those would be like really good changes that could, kind of improve your diet overall. So, okay, so on a scale of 1 to 10, how important is it to you that you're able to start bringing lunches to work and kind of making those healthier choices?
I say
with 10 being the most important.
I would say 8 because my job requires me to perform physically. I feel it is important for me to eat the right stuff so that I can have energy and I'm able to perform throughout the day for 12 hours. So it's a 12-hour shift. I think for me that's what's most important.
Yeah, so very, very important to you, right? Yeah, and those sound like great reasons. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you'll be able to start bringing your lunch to work?
I would say 4.
A 4?
Not very confident.
Okay. What are your reasons for that?
Just because it's a long shift, and by the time I get home, it takes almost an hour to get home, and then I have to get ready for bed soon so I can get enough rest for the next day, and it only leaves me with a few hours in the evening to be home, be my family, and then get ready for the next day. So I kind of, and I'm tired, getting food ready takes a lot. So
Yeah.
really time.
Yeah, if you're at work for 12 hours straight, like the last thing you want to do is come home and already be thinking about the next day and working on, making your food. So I could see why that would be like really, really challenging for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So is there anything that you have in mind that might take that 4 of confidence and maybe make it like a 6 or a 7?
Yeah, I think I've thought about possibly just like freezing food, making it in advance, and then just freezing it. Maybe that would just, or refrigerating too might work.
Like leftovers.
Since I don't work too many days out the week, and yeah, like leftover, just making a bunch of the same stuff and eating that for work.
Okay. Okay, so you've already kind of thought of some ideas of how to. What kind of meals were you thinking that you could like freeze?
I was thinking of just some the cheapest stuff. So like
okay.
Rice is always cheap, and beans are cheap, and that's about it. Maybe throw some broccoli or veggies in there, just to have some other flavors. But that's about it.
I think you'd kind of told me before that you've kind of done that in the past, right? Do you remember what kind of meals you kind of did when you were kind of prepping your food before?
I used to prep, and then I would just make a lot of pasta. I think pasta was one because it's quick to boil and get some pasta sauce and some. I like lentils in it just as for the protein. So like that's always a quick. I can make a lot of at once, and but then it does get boring eating the same thing over and over. But I think pasta, beans, and rice are just like the two that are cheap and easy to make.
Okay. So, what do you think has kind of been holding you back from doing that more recently in this new job?
I think it has been just more of time, I guess. Like my other jobs, I didn't work that much, so at least I would work 8 hours and go home and then still have time to do stuff. But working these 12s are really different than the other job. So
yeah, a little bit more exhausting, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, well, especially if you're freezing them, would you be making them like the day before work, or would you be making them like more in advance?
I think the day before my work week would be ideal. Just
before the whole week.
Before the whole week, yeah. Before my work week, just make everything free or put it in the refrigerator, and then throughout the week, my work week, just take mix and match, whatever I have. But it's also, I really don't know the vitamins and minerals and stuff. Like I see it on the chart, but like, I think I make very basic food that I don't really pay attention to the vitamins and minerals.
Well, I mean, what you've mentioned so far, so like rice and beans, for instance, that's a really good combination because, and we've kind of talked about this before, you usually make brown rice, right? So brown rice is great. You're getting a whole grain. Obviously the beans have high protein, which you're definitely going to need. High in fiber, high in iron, high in zinc. The rice and beans together are a complementary protein. So I think that's really good. Just the rice and beans alone, you would get a lot of your daily nutrients that you need, And then, you kind of talked about things being boring. So you could take something simple like that and then, you know, you mentioned broccoli, you could add like salsa on it, and then just that little bit of like variety kind of adds more of the vitamins and minerals that you need, like especially broccoli is high in vitamin C. Salsa and things like that will have a lot of vitamin C, potentially vitamin A, things like that. So
Okay.
yeah, I think
Wow.
the pasta and the lentils. So pasta, if you think about it, is a grain, right?
Yeah.
And then lentils is are a legume basically, right? So that again is another complementary protein pair. So even just the pasta and the lentils, and then you're probably putting like a marinara sauce with it usually.
Yeah.
So same thing again. You've got complementary proteins, protein from the lentils, vitamins from the pasta sauce. I think those sound like really good nutrient dense meals actually.
Okay. Yeah. I know I don't eat a lot of like leafy greens, you know, and I know there's some benefits to that, but
yeah,
I know I could probably add that.
well, so based on those ones, like, do you have any ideas of how you could add some more leafy greens?
No, just throw some spinach in there, like
Yeah, spinach it
mix
goes.
it.
Yeah, with pasta, spinach
Yeah.
goes really really good with pasta. Um, you know, you could do. I personally like with sort of like burrito bowls. I like arugula with them because have you ever had arugula?
Yeah.
It kind of has like a little bit of a spicy flavor to it, so I feel like it kind of goes good with, you know, rice and beans and salsa. You know, and if you already have the rice and beans ready and you have just like a package of greens or something in the fridge, you could kind of just throw that into a baggie or, you know, a container or whatever and just throw that on top of whatever you're eating while you're at work.
Yeah, that sounds good.
That sounds pretty doable.
Yeah, I actually think now that I think about it more, and you know, you put it that way, kind of like I can just make a big thing of rice, beans. I actually do have one of those containers of the mixed like spring greens, and like it wouldn't be too difficult to get a few spoons of the rice in the morning and everything, and have quick meals.
Yeah. Okay. Great. That sounds awesome. Are there any other kind of problems that you run into, or any other stuff you want to talk about related to it?
Nothing I could think of.
No? Okay, so so a minute ago you said your confidence was a 4. Do you feel like you feel a little bit more confident right now?
Yeah. Like if I'm thinking now if I do it before the work week, different sauces, different stuff can actually make it taste different, you know, and different, like you said, salsas could help. Yeah, I think definitely I can.
And
I can do that.
maybe you could throw in like some veggies or something. You know, you kind of have like multiple breaks throughout the day. Maybe you could think about maybe bringing like a piece of fruit with you to have as like a snack during one of those breaks. Do you usually eat like a full meal during each of those breaks? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I need it. Like it can't just be a snack like an apple. I don't know. Maybe an apple plus something else, but like I feel like I need a meal each break.
Oh, probably also kind of an issue is your break is pretty short, right? Or some of them
minutes.
are.
So I mean, that's kind of longer than other breaks that I've had. I've had 10-minute breaks where I had to just hurry and eat, you know. Yeah. But this one, I feel like there's kind of a lot of time.
Okay, that's good. All right. So, what do you think about maybe we could make some goals for you to work on in the next like few weeks or so to see if maybe you could start implementing some of these ideas that you have. Yeah?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay. So, what are you thinking that you might want to start doing next week?
Making a lot of rice. I think if I get both of those, pasta, rice, beans, lentils, I think those main, I would say, ingredients, or just those main entrees, and then if I have those in the refrigerator, maybe the other smaller veggies and greens, I can just add to it, like maybe just go ahead and have a good amount in the refrigerator.
Okay.
And I can mix and match beans and rice one break, pasta another, maybe some other veggies.
Do you feel like, are you concerned about like maybe if you have like the rice in one container and the beans in another container and then everything kind of like separated, do you worry that you might not be able to like package it the night before or in the morning before work? Or do you think you'll be able to manage it?
The only thing is that I can manage it. that shouldn't be an issue.
Okay.
It's just like I don't know why my mind went to like something that's microwavable and not microwavable together. Like
okay.
Beans and rice, but then if you put spinach in it, it's not gonna taste right if it's microwaved.
Yeah, like something I do is it might not be as environmentally friendly, but like if I have something that like I might get like soggy or you know I don't want to heat that part up, you could put it in just like a little plastic bag on the side so that you have everything that you can just throw in the microwave and then have the others like the salsa, the whatever on top. You don't want to like necessarily eat hot, Yeah,
that's where my mind went when you said that.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to keep in mind. Okay, so you want to work on maybe making some specific foods at the beginning of the week. Okay, so what day of the week might you make those on?
I would say a Friday.
Probably on Fridays?
Because that's my Sunday, basically.
Your day before the work week starts. Yeah. Okay. Let's see, what else? Do you know about like how much of that food that you're gonna have to make? Do you have an idea?
No. Like I would have to like kind of experiment a little bit, like. Yeah, I don't know.
Are you gonna make like the beans from scratch, like from dried beans?
I prefer to do them that way, just because I can make them flavorful. Canned beans are good. I feel like making my own, you get a lot more. They're cheaper and they'll taste better.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right. So, do you think that you'll be able to, like, in the next couple of weeks, you'll be able to make enough food on your Friday to kind of make you through the whole week? Or do you think that's, yeah?
Yeah, I think so.
Or maybe, so right now you're just working 3 days a week, right? Okay, so maybe to give you like a little bit of wiggle room, you could try to just make sure you could do like manage 2 days a week, and then maybe if on that third day you run out of food or you don't have time or something, then you can kind of give yourself a break and go and get lunch or something. Yeah. Does that sound doable? So 2 out of the 3 days bringing food. Okay. So right now we're saying on Friday before work. Oops, forgot how to spell. On Friday, you're going to make rice, beans, lentils, and pasta. And maybe like some other stuff for the side. Is that what you were talking about? Yeah,
like definitely some leafy greens, like just to be able to top it off.
And side veggies.
And some side veggies, maybe some carrots, zucchini, just something easy I can chop up and take with me.
Okay, and are you planning on prepping those on Friday as well?
Yeah, that'd probably be a good idea.
Okay. All right, so we're going to make, on Friday, rice, beans, lentils, pasta, and side veggies to take to work. at least 2 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
And are you planning on starting that next week?
I actually think it would make sense for me to start tomorrow because I think I can do it after work just to set it aside and have at least the beans and rice. I would like to start tomorrow.
You want to start tomorrow?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just because, like,
so
so
right now is Friday. You're not going to have time to do that before work tomorrow, but you think you'll come home from work tomorrow and start it?
Yeah, I feel like I should make it a priority.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, is there so this is a good goal for, like the coming future. Maybe for tomorrow, is there something that you could do to make it like a little bit easier just for tomorrow, for this week? Like maybe just for this week you could use like canned beans or something like that, just so that you don't have to worry about doing that tomorrow after work. Because, like, how long
beans
is it?
do take a while.
Yeah.
A few hours.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah, like
Yeah.
you're gonna come home from work already from 12 hours and then just cook beans for 3 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, I can try the can. We do have some. I just kind of save those, but
yeah,
it's a good idea.
Yeah, I think just for maybe this like short situation, it would be like a good way to kind of get you started to make it a little bit easier right now.
Yeah, because I do have a rice cooker, which is pretty easy.
Yeah.
Throw the rice in and it'll cook on its own. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, great. All right, so tell me if this sounds good. So on Fridays, you're gonna prep rice, beans, lentils, and pasta and side veggies to take to work at least 2 days a week.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna start that tomorrow.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, great. That sounds like a really good goal to me. And then, like we said before, you'll have control over, how much salt you're putting in that food. Any, I don't know, added sugar or fat. Like most of what you mentioned sounds like it's going to be pretty low fat, other than maybe like whatever oil you use to cook with.
Mm-hmm.
So your fat was a little bit high, just like the saturated fat was just a little bit high. So stuff like that will come down if you're doing that. So yeah, I think that would be a great way to kind of like make a huge, improvement on some of those numbers really fast.
Yeah.
So. All right, is there anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think that sounds good. Everything sounds good. Okay,
cool. So then we'll, if we meet again, then, we'll be able to check up and see how you're doing on that. And then if there's any other improvements that you want to keep making beyond that, and we can just keep talking about it and keep, making tweaks and improvements wherever you want to.
Yeah, that sounds good.
All right. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And I'll see you next time.